with the single tap. Play any iHeartRadio station and tap the talkback mic on the screen to send your message in seconds. Ooh, and it's True Crime Week. Check our dangerously good lineup, including the new iHeart original podcast, What Happened to Sally Beale. Download the free iHeartRadio app today and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
iHeartRadio.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. That's a lot of listing there. I understand if that gets a little confusing, but really what it comes down to is that we're going to want to try to be all the places that we have major members of our audience being there in order to facilitate the conversation about the things that are important and affecting us here in the Borderland. I mean, that list is extensive. This past Friday, if it was any indicator, the tons of stuff that came up, but there's a lot going on during the week as well. So this is the time when we definitely will be talking about a variety of issues. There's a couple of ones top of my mind as we start this week. So happy Monday to you all for joining on along with us here. Just a couple of things that I'm focused on here. I mean, Texas and statewide, looking at that change of the seasons. I mean, we've got some major wildfires affecting the other parts of the state here. And I don't know if you looked around lately, the rain today, notwithstanding, there's certainly a possibility in our region of us, having some range fires, I guess would be a better way to put it here, because of, remember the rains last year that caused all that greenery to pop up, and unless we get more rains this year, it's a lot of dry and crispy stuff as we heat up with this change in the seasons here. So talk a little bit what's going on in the rest of the state, and then a little bit further about what we got going on here, even as there's also more scrutiny coming out. A Texas Tribune with an interesting piece, amongst others, about the issues being looked at when it comes to those state-level border security issues. We've had more than a couple of members of our audience bring up some questions about, okay, what is actually going on with Operation Lone Star and the related issues, and is it being effective, or is this so much campaign ploy, essentially? Is this something to hopefully, it got him through the primaries that much handily, even if it was trying to become a wedge issue, but we'll get into that here. Plus, some interesting things going on very close to home, a serious change of era, end of an era, really way to put it here, as the El Paso Times major printing press in town is no more, scrapped, which just feels a little disrespectful, but hey, I'm not in charge of those business decisions. But even that, further changes coming when it comes to higher education, post-secondary education, becoming, less desirable as wages change. So some reporting going on locally about that. So we'll get into all of that and a whole lot more here. Again, we'll take calls a little bit later in the program, as we do towards the bottom, or just after the bottom of the hour is the correct way to say it here, and just a whole lot to get into. So let's just jump straight in with some of these statewide issues. So, of course, we have had Texas Governor Greg Abbott declaring a couple of disaster as a wildfire is going through several Texas counties. Texas Tribune quoting here, 5,800 acres across the state have burned, and at least one person has died. Dozens of homes have burned down. 3 cities in other parts of Texas seeming to have gone evacuated because of the concern over all these issues here. And now this may be a whole lot of, okay, so why should we care here? Because that's happening elsewhere. They got a lot more stuff to burn out there. But again, I would caution you that I don't know if you looked out in the unimproved areas of the county lately. I've been doing a lot of study, including for our show this past Saturday with the El Paso History Radio Show, preparing to talk about the geologic history, driving around some areas, taking some pictures, didn't end up using many of them, but was struck by the amount of just dried vegetation out there, all that little grass that popped up as we had the rains last year, as we have Calvin Williams joining us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. All of that grass is, well, still there because we don't have a huge grazing animal population outside of the couple of, a few active ranches and stuff within El Paso County anyway. Around the surrounding region, there's a whole lot more, obviously. Head up to Las Cruces and remember to hit that recycle air button, among other things. But they're not exactly foraging on these wild grasses we got out there. So there's a lot of it, is the point. And you may recall, if people have lived in this area for a long time, may recall that we have literally had range fires here in the past. So, I mean, we've had, warnings of many previous years about, extreme weather conditions, red flag warnings, the reasons that the way you may have impact you in the most direct way in previous years was about, burn bans and not doing fireworks. That's about the way it's gotten the most extreme, but it just does. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong out there. If anyone's got a different impression, let me know. It does seem like there's just more absolute vegetation out there. Sure, the bushes are about what they are, maybe a little bit crispy, but just the ground level. So the story that sticks in my mind about that is that at the El Paso Archaeological Museum and Wilderness Park, recall from years past interviews done with some of the people that have been involved in there about when there was a range fire, because you may also recall that area, which is just on the east side of the mountain, adjacent to Trans Mountain and Wood Ravine, that's part of Casino Range, amongst other things, which are going to be talked about this weekend, but not to delve too far into that, because the issue there is that they counted, the person that interviewed as part of that in that last range fire, counted a number of explosions that happened in that area because of the remaining unexploded ordnance that is still out there. So that's the kind of issue we can see here. I'm hoping we don't end up in any kind of a disaster situation. I mean, I think it would take a really, really bad situation there, but still, I mean, of course, thoughts and prayers go out to those in the other parts of Texas, including, just bad situation, disaster declarations going on. Eastland County, Sheriff's Deputy Barbara Fenley actually died helping people escape from the fires Thursday night. You want to go check out that article over on our website, KTSMradio.com. And so, dozens of homes. It covers 11 counties, but more could be added. So we've definitely had spring sprung in our area as we're looking at those winds for colder temperatures. I just hope that the rain actually does keep up, because if it doesn't, then we're going to potentially see that in our own, set of issues here. But again, the one I mentioned about the end of an era over at El Paso Inc., their headline here, there's no shortage of business for the company that is dismantling the El Paso Times printing press. John Brazelton on the spring is sprung thing, saying spring weather in West Texas sucks. I think the term you named actually there is blow, because I was getting blown around on the road there a bit, but you're, of course, entitled to your opinion on that here. And as the saying goes, well, for the rest of Texas anyway, kind of applies out here. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll probably change. I found that to be more accurate than not here, but we're looking at those unsettled conditions, my favorite way of putting it, for the better part of at least the start of the first half of this week. So I hope the rain kind of keeps up, to be honest, because I see that as hopefully lowering our chances of range fires out here, not something seen in many years. But what I was talking about right here before we hit this break, again, the story from the El Paso Inc., that the El Paso Times printing press has been more or less dismantled there. They've got some great pictures showing the building space where it used to be all pretty much gone. Interesting notes there, that because I would have thought that, such an extensive and complicated piece of machinery and the way it takes to put it together couldn't have been sold to someone, but they actually do note here the regional project manager for the asset recovery, MIWEC asset recovery, the company that did the dismantling and scrapping of that printing press, saying that there used to be a market for the presses aftermarket in South and Central America when they were still printing a lot. That kind of got saturated, and now it's all scrap. So the fate of that building question has come up of what will happen to it, and City Council has agreed to buy it for around $3 million, but no specific plans for it just yet, to my understanding. So, but yeah, this company is doing a lot of this kind of work, which is further concerning here. I mean, the printing will still happen now in Juarez, but there's just something to be said for local news reporting, discussion of issues, and, well, not exactly in response to this situation, because we didn't really know this was coming, like outside of the last month or so, But that's kind of the reason we do what we do here, because as things contract, as outlets are doing, traditional outlets anyway, because there's a million and one things you can find online, but also the trustworthiness of that. I've said it before, and I will say it again on this show before too long, I am sure. Anytime that you find something that you agree with entirely, 100%, it's like they were speaking directly to you and knew what you wanted to hear, and you agree with it entirely, that's when you should be the most suspicious, because reality doesn't really conform to ideology. It doesn't conform to a set of ideals, and dealing with that is, I think, an important part of how we deal with our systems and the way that we interact with them, how we want them to function. I mean, you can have your ideals and want to see them implemented as such, but if they don't have a relation to reality, we're not exactly talking about real politic anymore. Not that there's necessarily a whole lot of that, but tell you what, we're going to hit that first break of the hour here right now, and in doing so, we'll come back, talk further about, well, this issue and what it means for news gathering in the area and just the ability to have local focuses here. Don't worry, we'll keep doing it, but I just want to delve into that a little bit further, plus a few other issues that we have definitely got going on when it comes to things about like college. There's not even the only changes coming to our area here, so we'll deal with that, and apparently an audio issue coming out after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. So like I said, coming back, we'll get into more of this and how college may be changing, or at least the demand for it. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Whatever your travel plans may be, I know spring break may have gotten a little bit of kibosh put on it because of the high energy prices, and anything I'm looking at in Europe is getting a little bit 86 at the moment here, but I am not worried about being able to experience flavors around the world because I found a great local source for quality flavored olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, and balsamic vinegars, enhanced flavors. That's enhanced flavors. They have over 40 different varieties. Of course, they're olive oils imported from around the world: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain. And all of the balsamic vinegars, of course, to call it that, has to come straight from the Modena province of Italy here. And honestly, their extra virgin olive oil is fantastic, but also then their extra virgin olive oils of flavored varieties. They got a Tunisian Kamali roasted garlic, and you crack open that bottle and you can smell it, and it can really take your cooking up a notch here and really add some spice to your life. So you can find them at enhancedflavors.com website for all the information on them and ordering information, because again, you don't have to go anywhere to experience these flavors. They are the local importer of this and can help you, well, just experience these flavors, but they are out in the community as well. If you went out this last weekend to the Upper Valley Farmers Market, I hope you caught them. They will be out again this coming Sunday. So that's in the Hobby Lobby parking lot near Mesa and Donovan Crossroads, just to the west of I-10 and Mesa, there on the west side. So you can find them there. Try some of the things. That's where it really comes down to, being able to try it for yourself, see what you like. Even just smelling them, you'll get a sense of it, as I have here. So go and check them out. And again, you can find them at the farmers market or enhancedflavors.com. That's enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking El Paso roadways, an accident just reported I-10 westbound at Copia. I-10 westbound at Mesa, watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Alameda Avenue eastbound at Americas Avenue in the loop. El Paso fire just showing up there for that reported accident. And it's slow and go on the I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Thorne with 5-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 5/28. Visit staples.com/signage for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles, with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months. 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso Strong. Excludes factory rebate at dealer discount plus DTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Grab your family and watch the 2022 iHeartRadio Music Awards Red Carpet Live, presented by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to see everybody. Shout out to all who got vaccinated, got your kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
Live stream the exclusive Red Carpet pre-show March 22nd at 7, 6 Central on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel.
Thank you guys so much.
Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov.
So the dream was to build your very own law practice, be your own boss, call all the shots. But have things like billing, HR, timekeeping, and all the other management stuff turned your dream into a nightmare? Take charge of your practice with Lexicon. We're the intersection of practice management software and legal support services for your firm. You'll get more billable and livable hours back. Lexicon marks the spot for all your practice management needs. Visit lexiconservices.com/intersection to get the whole story or schedule a demo.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing. So a lot of ways to interact with the show, kind of the point of what we do here, because as opposed to one-way mild pontificating, which I still get accused of, the idea of being able to have that feedback, well, I definitely like it. I find it to be maybe a better show when we do here. A lot of comments coming in along those lines, so you can leave your comments during the show over on the various outlets that were on there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We see them all. We can pop them up here. Ed Clore on some of those border issues here. We'd like to welcome the 170,000 amigos waiting to come across once Title 42 expires. Two things on that. One, don't think Title 42 will ever really expire. I mean, it has been essentially the lifeline for this administration under being able to have any kind of border response, as there's been vague rumblings of some, and the way that some of the Remain in Mexico so-called program, specifically more technically known as the MPP or Migrant Protection Protocols, has kind of been implemented here, actually started being re-implemented in that area after that court case that I'm sure it was someone in the administration was probably like, oh, shoot, we have to do this. Oh, no, as opposed to coming up with another policy that'll probably be just rife with flaws. We can blame all the flaws that are already in this one then on the previous administration of the courts, etc. Now, again, I'm not going to be too surprised if they do come out with something else, but I would be very surprised if Title 42 goes away entirely. It's not as impermeable as it was already, of course, first talked about. I mean, the whole minor situation, well, that's been going on since the start of this administration. That isn't even a new thing. I mean, the whole, unaccompanied camps that have existed in this area across administrations. Let's be perfectly honest here, because we had that one down in Tornillo that had its own issues and the protests going on with it and then got closed. I was out, when we had a little bit more staffing going on here, able to go out of the station more at that point, out during some of the visits that happened to the Border Patrol facilities in our area that were doing the visits by, there were a lot of people involved with it, but AOC was one of the major focuses there. I think I still got some pictures up over on social media. But more specifically, so while Title 42 and now, of course, the camp that they have over on Fort Bliss, rife with problems and a whole lot of issues coming around with it, I fully contend that the federal government is not good at this particular duty of taking care of the full spectrum of needs of thousands of people, be they little people or big people, mostly little people in this case, they're being children. But to the second part of that, those 170,000, I don't think are waiting for anything, at least not in mass 201. I think that there's plenty of people involved in that. I mean, we've seen the increases in stash houses and in things like, the actual smuggling, the stoppages that have been happening over the checkpoints, once you head north, south, or even to a certain extent west here, or even further on. I mean, you go around, you find these checkpoints, of course, here. And that has other implications when it comes to that impending April 1st date for New Mexico and state level legalized marijuana, whole nother subject here. But those people aren't necessarily waiting because the cartels are probably, I mean, I don't have their brochure here in front of me, but saying, oh no, we'll drive you straight across if you want to pay more, that kind of a thing here. So again, it's a concerning situation, but again, some of the other authors that we've talked with and writers previously on the show, Todd Bensman, chief amongst them in my mind with the Center for Immigration Studies, says that the whole ant operation is already going apace here and plenty still trying. So again, you got a good point there, but a little bit more complicated than that in my mind here. Maria, comment on my idea of paying attention to your sources, knowing what's trustworthy or not, whether through a physical conversation or in writing. It's prudent to consider there are always two sides to an issue. The reality or truth is usually somewhere in between. I'll go along with that a little bit here, but there's an implication when you talk about things like that. As much as I do tend to believe that, there's an implication that comes along as that's a centrist view of a kind of, guitar strumming, kumbaya, can't we all get along? You're both right kind of thing. And I reject that aspect of it because, I mean, truth, someone's truth. I mean, the whole Indiana Jones, the difference between truth and fact kind of thing. Not the more exciting part of that movie, I will fully admit here. But there are some things that are absolutely true, 2 + 2 = 4 kind of things here. And there's not much room for debate on it, but also not necessarily just because someone is saying something outrageous in one standpoint on it doesn't mean that it invalidates a very valid position that is, well, may now come down as the other extreme, technically just the way it's debated here. These are the reasons we want to talk about this, because getting down to what is the realities of situation, like sure, discussion, say, well, truth probably lies somewhere in between. Good general statement, but the further you delve into things, part of the reasons we do a program like this, it helps you find out what's really going on. John Browston, back on the border security issue, a local congresswoman has come up with federal money to build a new CBP processing center in El Paso, quicker processing to get more illegals into the U.S. faster. Of course, that was part of, if you want to hear the interview we did just ahead of the primary elections that came, that was something discussed there, but I'm going to be the most interested. I'm not surprised about any of that has come through. But again, there are provisions within, well, some of the recent bills that have put forth, including the omnibus spending bill, which has a whole lot into it. I may have seen something, I need to figure out if it was satire or not, that there was actually a defund the government part of it in there, and that, nearly 3,000 pages. I mean, I can't even print that out. My bosses would come in here and wonder why it set the printer on fire. But there's more to delve into there, absolutely. But, okay, the actual virtual board security thing, we're working on some interviews on that very specifically, because knowing what can actually be done there, because if you want to talk specifically about our area, even though there's quite a lot of wall construction that has happened, and frankly, anything that has come down from state level efforts, there's not going to be any further done here, because anything that might need to be done, once you get down to like Tornillo area, sure, and down beyond, Fort Hancock, those sectors of our regional border, yeah, they does stop there. But okay, within, stone throw distance of the station here, well, if you had a really good arm, I guess, I can see around Cristo Rey if I stand just right on our loading dock here of the building. And of course, there's some wall building that has happened over there, and the whole We Build the Wall section, which is its own kerfuffle of issues. I think the federal investigation is still going on to that. Haven't seen an update on that in a minute, but I want to say it probably has. In any case, sure, that We Build the Wall section, as much as they crow about it, the builders of that particular section, there's a whole lot more that can't be done over there just because of the geography and the way the border falls around the base.
Avenue eastbound.
Meteorologist Andrew Diaz. Our first full day of spring certainly doesn't feel like it. We're looking at much cooler temperatures. In fact, a good part of this week is going to remain well below average. We'll see some more winds, even though the wind advisory will have expired. We are expecting to find some breezy to windy conditions over the next couple days, and rain chances gradually decreasing before we dry out by midweek.
This report is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need.
Liberty. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
With so many real estate agents to choose from, how do you find the best one? Hi, it's Glenn Beck. One key is just looking for the investment that an agent is willing to make to get your home sold. Brian Birds with eXp Realty and his team have a marketing budget 25 times higher than the average agent's annual income. This means your home gets maximum exposure because it's marketed to the widest possible audience and gets you the highest possible sales price. Brian is so confident in his ability to sell your home fast and for more money that he's willing to put his own money on the line. If your home doesn't sell at the price and deadline you agreed to, he'll buy it from you himself. You're not going to find another real estate agent in El Paso who is that invested in getting your home sold. He's the only one I'd call. Google Brian Birds. That's Brian, B-U-R-D-S. Read over 400 five-star reviews because I'm not the only one who knows you should call Brian Birds. Google Brian Birds or just check out brianbirds.com.
If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages that we should be back up on now. Anyway, had a brief technical glitch over there, but looks like we are back there. Thanks for letting us know. Do appreciate it. Digital percussive maintenance needs to happen sometimes, but that's why we mention more than a couple times during the show all the ways you can tune in, because we have on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, and more. So just important notes for you all, because we're out there in a lot of ways, and even if one doesn't work, one other one was probably out there. As long as I'm here in the studio and dealing with things and we got our broadcast going, we'll keep doing it in all the ways that we do here. So we got into a lot of issues there in the last segment, but one other thing I want to talk about locally here. So again, a phrase I have used about how things are going to continue to progress in, all issues is probably going to be weird. Because good, bad, somewhere in between probably is, just the only constant that happens is that change is constantly happening. And a very interesting story again from El Paso Inc. this week, if you want to go pick that up for yourself. As entry-level pay rises, college enrollment drops. Now, there's a couple of factors that can be thought about here, and the story by Sarah Sanchez over there at El Paso Inc. goes more into the fact that technical education has had a little bit of its top of it, talking with Tom Fullerton, guest on this show as well, and professor of economics over at UTEP. I'm calling it a little bit disconcerting. Because there has been that traditional idea of there being, more lifetime income associated with getting a degree and then entering the workforce. But a lot of these different sectors with their hiring, the minimum wage having not moved much in the last couple of decades, really, versus, what the cost of living is, making it more of a viable provision here. I got to imagine that if anyone is a little bit better positioned overall, it would probably be El Paso because, and this has been brought up as gripes in years past, about particularly UTEP having a very low 4-year graduation rate, the traditional route. But there's, at certain points, I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, there has been, I want to say, a majority of students that have graduated from UTEP have done so within about 10 years, give or take here, because a lot of people in El Paso that find themselves getting degrees, if they're not able to follow the true, whole traditional quote unquote system of you go there right after high school, you do your 4 years, and then you enter the workforce, maybe, a side job, campus job, or internships in between, doesn't really work out for a lot of people in this region. Again, this has been previously brought up by local elected officials, state legislators, etc., is a huge issue, but here's what I actually want to say is that, again, local organizations, UTEP, EPCC, the wide range of, Western Tech, Southwest University, all these organizations have actually positioned our region pretty well to deal with this and so help people get a higher education and the technical certifications that can help them earn a better job. It was probably better part of a decade ago, if not totally 10 years ago, did a report on some of the highest paying non-bachelor's degree jobs out there. Like there's, a number that can pay decent if you've got the technical training. Actually, associate's degree, I want to say it was essentially a nuclear energy specialist that it sounded kind of like a Homer Simpson job, actually, what it was within the state of Texas anyway, that would pay 6 figures. So probably this was like low 6 figures, probably a bit more now than that, because that was pre-pandemic and everything has gone up. But the idea of being able to maintain some of the technology along with it, requiring an associate's degree, sure, but then again, very focused on the technical side of it, being able to do the job, paying low 6 figures. So did not require a bachelor's degree, but a little bit beyond what you can actually do. Again, that's the closest way I had it described to me, is it sounds like the kind of thing that Homer Simpson does, but like actually does in this way. Maybe that's just a bad example here, giving you a wrong idea of the job here. But so there is plenty of kind of employment now, that not available in our region as far as I'm aware. Well, regionally, yes. El Paso, not, because there's actually a number of nuclear related facilities in our area, believe it or not. Someone made a reference last week to the Carlsbad, the WIPP, W-I-P-P, I want to say it's basically it's also known as not Ocotillo Mountain, it's Yucca Mountain, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. The idea of where they're putting those nuclear barrels, among other things, and storing them in perpetuity until someone figures out something better to do with them, but making sure there's no groundwater contamination, no air contamination, just kind of shoving them away. So that's regional. And then there's actually a couple more, either nuclear, fissile materials generation or other kinds. I've been some weird places and heard some weird things about the stuff that is available in our region. So I've got some firsthand experience with part of it, but just I've heard a lot more about what is available. So some of these things may apply regionally, but not exactly in El Paso as far as I'm aware. But again, the major idea everyone's putting it, pay me big time, and can I ask, what does this button do? No, you cannot, because if you don't know, please leave the building. Anyway, so the idea of there being this imbalance, I mean, so beyond the economic considerations that happen in our area, I also got to say that there's been more than a couple of colleges nationwide, internationally even, because I hear these gripes coming that way, that may have kind of shot themselves in the foot with courting students, because particularly right at the start of the pandemic, when all the lockdowns were beginning, just a little bit over 2 years ago, from this standpoint, yes, you still have to pay tuition, and yes, you still have to pay room and board. No, you can't actually use the classroom. Then even if you're choosing not to return to campus, that bill's already paid, so now we're refunding. Now, that wasn't, of course, all of them, but more than a little bit widespread nationwide. So I got to wonder how much about that is actually playing into this issue of college enrollment dropping. Now, again, I think El Paso is pretty well situated when it comes to this regionally as well. Las Cruces, all the technical education that can be had in the area, but whether the whole traditional track will go through, and this, of course, comes after UTEP has done, I think we mentioned this on the program, expanding their low-income availability of certain kind of funding within the area, or even a free tuition. I want to say that will be an enticement for people to keep going, or at least pursuing education, but whether or not it does, we will see. John Brazelton mentioning on the nuclear storage issue, Harry Reid used his political power to keep nuclear waste storage out of Nevada. Yeah, good old Harry Reid, a lot of stuff that he did that I was unimpressed by. But I think the most recent time people may have heard or experienced or been concerned about that whole WHIP project was actually when there was a lot of speculation and more than a couple of weird sites posting about that potential cloud being released from the WHIP project. I don't think that ended up happening, but I don't think it actually ended up happening. Yeah, the U.S. Department of Energy's Waste Isolation Pilot Plant is the full name of it here. So WIPP. Yeah. And no, I'm not aware of any Stranger Things implications that come with the Department of Energy being involved with that facility here. RJ saying, best educated baristas in the Southwest. Okay, I want to put a pin in that with a little bit of a difference between getting any kind of education you want, which also, I mean, is one of the things that we tout here as being a free country. Yeah, you can learn anything you want, but I mean, there are also more than a couple of people I know personally that may not have gotten the most useful thing, or at the very least, if they're trying to play into essentially academia, you better know what you're getting into if you're doing that, because it's possible, but it's its own whole world here. And I want to say, with all the need for technical education here in our area, we got a lot more than that is useful. Though, I mean, if you want to pursue your passion, far be it from me to tell you not. You just better have a real good plan for how that's going to work out for your life here. Because, the amount of English majors that end up going into Starbucks is interesting here. Maria Coleman with a comment from a little bit earlier. I agree, Andrew. Nothing is as it appears. Individuals owe it to themselves to research several sources, even if it involves reading or listening to sources out of their comfort zone. Our country appears so divided because people seem incapable of civil discourse. I want to say that's something kind of in the back of my mind when we do most things on this program, because I have no illusions that we can solve it. We can make it so that we know how to talk to each other again, guys. We just all have to do it. Like that's a lifetime mission at best, and maybe multi-generational to fix it more realistically. But being able to reasonably discuss things and say, well, you're this, the name calling that gets called out here, I don't have a good solution for that issue either, because if I did, we'd have implemented it already. But I mean, I can deal with it, even if not everyone has as thick of a skin as I've developed over years of doing this kind of work. But the ability to have at least somewhere approaching a civil discussion is certainly important to me. And another phrase I think of a lot here is that a wise mind can entertain a thought without accepting it here. And Calvin Williams pointing out also furthermore, when it comes to college education, pay for a 4-year degree and then get on-the-job training and forget what your professors said. I will say there is the disconnect between theoretical education and then hands-on, even within just, do you want to talk about on-the-job training? With other work I've done in the past, and involved big training programs, multiple weeks on site, learning how to do it, and then you get to being in the field and doing the work, and most of that goes out the window. I feel like that is a cross application across a lot of different fields and industries here. But tell you what, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. And coming out of this break, let's go ahead and open up those phone lines, because if this is the point of the show when we usually do that. So that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll get into this and more issues. A couple more things on my list I want to bring up here. But if you want to call in, 915-544-5876. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Couple of crashes reported on the I-10 westbound right now. I-10 westbound at Piedras, an injury act. I-10 westbound at the Copia Street off-ramp. Police responding to that accident. Gateway Boulevard northbound at Altura Avenue. An accident there was slowing. You could take Montana Avenue or Radford Street as alternates. And El Paso fires on the scene of another accident. Alameda Avenue eastbound at Americas Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Prohibition often conjures up images of picket signs and Chicago gangsters. But there is so much more to this time in America's history than that. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is your current home loan the right fit for you? Near historically low rates combined with rising home values means that you could have more home equity than you might imagine. And if you're considering a refi, an expertly chosen loan from Loan Depot could save you thousands. Ask about our smart term loans, cash out, and over 300 loan options to find just the right mortgage loan for you. Call now, 866-888-LOAN, or go to loandepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50.
Grab your family and watch the 2022 iHeartRadio Music Awards Red Carpet Live, presented by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to see everybody. Shout out to all who got vaccinated, got your kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
Live stream the exclusive Red Carpet pre-show March 22nd at 7, 6 Central on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel.
Thank you guys so much.
Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov.
Hey, you! Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian, but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Bambola. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher.
Hola, clase.
In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here. We know life is better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A bunch of things we're talking about here today. A lot of things going on and around the region. Of course, we've got, as brought up right now, Steve Ivey posting a vote hashtag Isela Reyes for mayor of San Eli. We do have those runoffs and such on the mind here. Well, for me anyway. I don't think we're totally through the process of the certification, all the stuff that happens in the background from the recent one. But, I mean, we got more than a couple of runoffs that have come out of that, a lot of it. So, that's on the docket here. We'll be getting more into that as we get closer to that late May date. But, of course, we've got an intervening election in the meantime, at least for our Texas members of the audience here, because, well, we got some constitutional amendments on there. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on all the election stuff as we do. A couple of the interviews we're working on for you here, mention them right now. Among other things, the whole near-shoring phenomenon. There's actually a company with that name. I thought I had made it up, but a day late and a dollar short on my part. I wasn't going to trademark anything. Apparently, they've already got it. But the actual, people that have been focused on this as a business on their own to help businesses do it, fascinating to me. So we'll be talking further about in the days to come. Plus, other things along the lines of what is going on with different aspects of what we got, the economy and those kind of things. A lot of things in the works for y'all, so don't worry there. One story that I would be very remiss if I didn't at least mention here, it was going along a lot late last week, was the whole El Paso being ranked as one of the least affordable cities in the U.S. That specifically one of those kind of aggregating websites, Good Hire, put out their list of 155 cities, and that El Paso was in the bottom 7 of it, alongside like L.A. and Corpus Christi. and a lot of analysis happening about this, and some of the reporting going on about it, that low wage growth, high renter affordability or low rental affordability, but also things like the taxes and the residential taxes very specifically that we see in our area. So curious to get y'all's feedback about it. Because honestly, one of the major things that have been talked about, at least when I was growing up and then, becoming a young adult and making those kind of major financial decisions, was always that El Paso is so affordable. And things are, so good here. Now, of course, we've seen housing prices spike and even rental prices spiking over the last couple of years. But we've also seen some increase. I mean, what we're talking about when it comes to that whole nearshoring thing that El Paso may be well positioned for makes me think that, okay, this might come out in the wash. But very curious to know y'all's perspective on that. Do you feel El Paso is one of the most unaffordable cities in the country? And, what needs to be done about it there? Because, I mean, that it would be a surprise to me, but I guess, when we're talking about all of the minor issues that come along with it, the otherwise previously stagnant wage growth ahead of the pandemic, which has led to a lot of people making those kind of employment decisions that we've talked about more than a little bit, and actually to kind of highlight it here, and also the whole being understanding and being nice to each other, because it doesn't cost anything to be nice until it's time to be not nice there, as you heard during the news break there. An argument over a man's food stamp card has led to a stabbing in Northeast El Paso, that from our news partners over at KFOX 14, apparently about how much was being used of a second person's food stamp card. That leading to a stabbing, a little bit shocking, but also highlights the fact that there are a lot of people out there, even as we are looking at a return to hopefully a good economy, even if, the interest rate hikes might signal otherwise. It's been a current for a while now, ever since we got past the major hump of the pandemic, I do feel like, but that there's a lot of people out there still kind of struggling. A personal example I can give is when we were out doing some recent remotes. You may have heard us on air talking about the ribeyes, amongst other things. A gentleman actually came up to it and said, hey, y'all out here for that? I said, yeah, sure we are. He said, okay, actually, looking to make some money. Do you need your tires washed or anything like that? And I said, not exactly, but, well, you have a good day otherwise. Just the juxtaposition to both the people having the resources to buy that kind of a product that we were out there in support of, and then a gentleman coming up and espousing that kind of his personal situation just kind of struck me. That even though in our region and in El Paso specifically, there's a lot of people who are maybe doing better. My personal situation throughout the pandemic managed to ride it out and ending up in a better position now because of various decisions we've made, personally, professionally, and as a family. There's a whole lot of people out there that, of course, took it in the shorts, among other things, and saw, when layoffs happen, when shutdowns happen. The whole lack of return to some of those sectors, such as restaurants, among other things, I can think to be seen as individuals making the decision. I was left high and dry by this. I need to find not just a job, but a career and maybe the technical education that is required for it. But then as, they're having to try to, bring people back, what we're talking about with that wage growth leading to less college enrollment, maybe that'll be the shift back. But point is that we got a lot of people out there still struggling, even within just our region, much less nationwide. And just being kind to each other is, again, it doesn't cost you anything. Even just saying, hi, how you doing? And you don't owe anyone anything, but think about it on terms of yourself here. If you want to see what you want to see in the world, not going to totally Gandhi here on you, be the change you want to see in the world. But if you want people to be nicer and more polite out there, set that example. Do it for yourself, and do it just for your own family and your own life. Regardless of what everyone else has, the only real response you can control is your own. So it doesn't really cost you anything. Andrew's ignorant, unhappy about some of those different studies majors out there and no jobs. Again, there are jobs, but okay, there's something else that I look at sometimes. Mike Rowe, he might be familiar from the whole Dirty Jobs set of shows out there, has long been with his foundation focused on the skills gap we've seen, because even before the pandemic, there was an estimated millions of jobs going unfilled on the technical side of things when you're talking about your plumbers, your carpenters, your electricians, et cetera, all those kinds of trades, I guess the more traditional way to put it here, but that do require, some skill and some education to be able to perform it correctly. That has been just a huge skills gap in the meantime, and that's been going on for years. And I mean, I'm not going to berate anyone for their particular choice of career path, though. Again, if you're doing it, I find this interesting and I'll figure out what to do with it later, that's just not pragmatic. My plan back in college myself here was to end up being a lawyer, but that was based on the idea that I like arguing and that's the best way I could figure out getting paid for it. And then we ended up here. So I want to say it's worked out decently for me in the meantime, but I had that eye towards it. And if I have young people in my life, I usually tell them when it comes to at least college, like, okay, when you're looking at your electives, even if you don't think you want to do anything involving business, look at business classes, because it doesn't matter what kind of a field you're getting into. Communication, laying out of the basics, and communicating with your clients, the people who hold the purse strings, and that kind of a thing from the business side of it, it affects anything you're going to do, even if you're an artist, even if you're a philosopher. If you can't figure out how to make it work in a way that works for you, you're going to be left a little bit high and dry. So I look at it from the pragmatic side, but hey, if you got a passion, far be it for me to tell you not to support it here. Part of the reason we ended up here with this kind of a program. All right, we got to take that top of the hour break right now. So come back after the break and the top of the hour news. We'll get further into these issues here. More about we talked a little bit about Narcan, successful use about it by regional law enforcement. So we'll get to that and more issues and your calls. 915-544-5876. Back after this break.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Copia Street off-ramp. A multi-vehicle accident has caused a backup. More lanes have opened up. The left lane is still blocked, and the backup is to Reynolds. I-10 westbound at Piedra Street, an injury accident reported there. Alameda Avenue eastbound at Americas Avenue. Medical crew still on the scene of an accident there. And Gateway Boulevard northbound at Altura. Look for a crash there. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months, 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso, El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate at dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. Senators are considering the nomination of federal judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court. Jackson insisted she decides cases from a neutral and independent perspective.
I evaluate the facts, and I interpret and apply the law to the facts of the case before me without fear or favor, consistent with my judicial oath.
Jackson called herself humbled and honored during the first day of a 4-day confirmation hearing. The D.C.-based appellate court judge would be the first black woman to ever serve on the nation's highest court. Jackson vowed to work hard to support and defend the Constitution. President Biden believes the best way to avoid another world war with respect to Russia's invasion of Ukraine is to prevent the U.S. and NATO from having military involvement on the ground. The White House press secretary was questioned about Ukrainian President Zelensky's recent comments surrounding a potential World War III. Jen Psaki said the most effective role the nation can play is by continuing to provide military, economic, and humanitarian assistance. A Republican Missouri Senate candidate is facing backlash from his own party. Erica Greitens is accused of abuse by his ex-wife. His opponent in the Republican primary says it's time for him to leave the race. Wall Street is closing lower on interest rate jitters. Stocks fell after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell vowed tougher action to fight surging inflation. Powell left the door open for rate hikes larger than last week's 0.25% increase. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 201 points, the S&P 500 slipped less than 2 points, and the Nasdaq fell 55 points. Tornadoes are being confirmed in Texas as severe weather is ramping up. One possible tornado caused serious damage in North Texas. Images from inside Jacksboro High School shows the gym pretty much destroyed by a storm with rubble strewn across the basketball court. The district says all students are safe. There are also reports the Jacksboro Animal Shelter was damaged. Jacksboro is about 90 minutes northwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Florida's governor is approving $800 million in the new budget for teacher pay initiatives in the state. Republican Ron DeSantis made that announcement this morning at a charter school in South Florida. The funding includes salary increases for both new and veteran teachers. The move is aimed at increasing the average minimum salary to at least $47,500. A New York congressman is introducing a bill that would require many companies to disclose whether they do business with Russia. Scott Pringle reports.
Richie Torres's bill would mandate that publicly traded corporations disclose business dealings with Russia through the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Bronx congressman says investors have the right to know.
Russia has become a dangerous place to do business. It's no longer safe for American investors. To do business in Russia is to play Russian roulette with the hard-earned dollars of the investing public.
Torres says his bill is in response to the president of Ukraine's speech to Congress recently. President Zelensky requested American companies no longer do business with Russia.
Scott Pringle reporting. Kohl's is reviewing multiple buyout offers. The Wisconsin-based department store chain confirmed it has received several non-binding offers from interested parties and has hired Goldman Sachs to coordinate with the bidders. Canadian department store operator Hudson's Bay is reportedly among the interested parties. Kohl's had no comment on the report. Mike's Hard Lemonade is looking to tap into millennials' nostalgia. It has announced a new drink line that features flavors inspired by the 90s. Mike's Hard Freeze line will have 4 flavors that the company says will remind consumers of their favorites. The brand says the line delivers all the flavor without the brain freeze. It says the line is being introduced because consumers crave nostalgic flavors, reminding them of simpler times and carefree days. A sequel to one of the first big box office hits of the pandemic era is set to begin production later this year. The untitled Godzilla vs. Kong sequel will return to shoot in Australia. It's the third time Legendary Entertainment has filmed one of its MonsterVerse movies in the country. Godzilla vs. Kong has brought in $468 million since its release last year. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
Celebrate the music you loved listening to all year.
Plus, your favorite artists will take home iHeartRadio Music Awards.
iHeartRadio! Don't miss our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
Watch exclusively on Fox.
Tomorrow night at 7.
We're all looking forward to getting back to real-life moments. Thanks to COVID vaccines that help prevent severe illness, we can do this. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is proud to help celebrate the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Visit vaccines.gov today.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Don't drive much, don't pay much with pay-per-mile insurance from Allstate. Life is good when you're in the driver's seat. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Do you promise to love, honor, and cherish, forsaking all others?
I do.
I do. And now, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you roommates. Go forth.
That's not the vow you took. But if struggles with CPAP have you and your spouse sleeping in separate rooms, it might be time to look into Inspire. Inspire works inside the body with just the click of a remote. That's right, just a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation.
Talk to your doctor to see if Inspire is right for you. Review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay, Squirrel!
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media sites that we are full live streaming on with video and all, plus all the comments that come along with it. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. This is also the point of the program where we have that phone line open if you wanted to call in, add your 2 cents on our discussion points here today or anything else about what affects us here in the borderland. The number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some interesting comments going on here, calling for some specific callers here. Be careful what you wish for is all I can say. But RJ saying, I saw Milanesa steak for $7.94 a pound at Wally World. Soon the steak will be behind lock and key. That's not even a joke. Like, that has actually happened. I haven't seen it necessarily in our region, but I have seen people pitching the pictures online of, okay, not exactly lock and key, but the security tags, the like net-based security tags that have got like the one plastic hub on it. Have some people posting about that on some of the like ribeyes and such. But I mean, as much as I love the whole, share the culture, you use these underused as cuts of meat here. Once skirt steak started taking off and going up to like, $10, $15 a pound, I was like, okay, this needs to stop here. Because like, seriously, that was like a staple that I went to. Even like things like London broil have just skyrocketed as becomes more in vogue here. And I'm sure there's a lot of people around the area that are unhappy about this here. Then Calvin was pointing out, even if you steal $1,000 of it or just under, as the case may be, those prices you could still go hungry here. And RJ further saying that Bloomberg News suggests we eat lentils instead of meat and kill our pets to reduce our carbon footprint. This is another part of those. Sure, I will look and see what people are talking about and then make my own decision based on that. And plain and simple, nah, not any of that here. That started sounding like more of a PETA point. At that point, PETA, people for the eating of tasty animals. I mean, people for the ethical treatment of animals. Come at me, bros, because I got a lot of issues with them as well. But, like, okay, do what makes sense for you in your life. And if you want to have an eye towards things being better, I mean, usually that takes a more coordinated response if you've got those kind of issues. But the people who, has been pointed out, it's a little bit of hypocrisy when it comes to a lot of that. Again, say what you will about Greta Thunberg, but at least she does seem to walk the walk by taking the like months-long ocean journeys anytime she needs to cross the Atlantic here. Plenty of other issues, but I wish everyone else of that same kind of persuasion, talking about those issues, was then doing that instead of taking the, private jet, those kind of things here. Again, the number to call if you wanted to do so during the show, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call. Got to put that 915 in front of it here, so 915-544-KTSM. The comments give me life on this here. I do have a call on the line here right now, so you're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Raul.
Hey there, Raul. What's on your mind?
Hey, Andrew. Several things. I've heard some of your callers that try to create this straw man of what the left believes or liberals believe. So I'm going to tell them what this leftist, this liberal believes. Mm-hmm. And I'll preface it by saying that the only president in the history of the United States to serve 4 terms, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was also credited for saving capitalism from itself, and in his day was called a traitor to his class. But he came from money. He came from banking money, old money, And as you know, his uncle had been president of the United States.
Of course.
Teddy Roosevelt. So anyway, some of what I'm going to quote here comes from him. These ideas of what he called the Second Bill of Rights. So, but this particular leftist and liberal believes, first of all, in science, over creation myths and fantasies with their gods and devils and angels and all of that nonsense. I believe in the separation of church and state. I want, as most all of us liberals and leftists want, we want clean air, clean water, and food with the government regulations, supervision, and taxes needed to secure these things. They're not going to happen on their own, and the free market ain't going to give it to you. We want a guaranteed job with a livable wage for all Americans, and the government and economic tax policies to make this happen. Because again, none of this is free, and everything is paid for by the taxpayer and the consumer. We want to allow women to control their own bodies, and believe that a government that is big enough to intrude in people's and women's wombs will never be a small government, if that's what you want, if that's what they want. We want sensible gun and gun owner control to end the sad and tragic present reality where nobody is safe anywhere, anytime. You cannot be a great country, America cannot be great when that's the situation. We want universal single-payer health insurance. I've been involved in the insurance industry for most of my career, and I can tell you it's not rocket science. It's all statistics. It's all more mortality tables, morbidity tables, and it's something that could be done for a whole lot less if we all did it together. It's called the law of large numbers and spreading the risk among many people. But we got a system where, the plutocrats own that industry, and they own the politicians that make the policies. We want free college. I would like to see free college in return for public service. So if you put in 1 year of college, you get 1 year, you got to put in 1 year of public service, and it doesn't have to be in the military. It could be in a whole host of things that need to be done in America. Like more health in the classrooms, for example, or more teaching power and teaching aids there. We would like to see drastically reduce the power of plutocrats by and prohibiting them from purchasing the best politicians money can buy with publicly financed political campaigns, or at least full disclosure of campaign contributions. So those are the things that this particular leftist, this particular liberal would like to see.
Okay, I mean, a lot of interesting points within there, and the kind of contentions I find most interesting, at least in this kind of a format here, is the parts where it doesn't make sense that these are put forth as, oh, these are liberal talking points or conservative talking points or whatever, and therefore as the idea of the other parts of is opposed to it on the other side of the aisle here. Because I mean, I don't think a whole lot of people are like, you know what, I love dirty air, I love smog, I love being able to just inhale and feel the cancer growing within me. I feel like most people are generally in favor of it here, but then the technical nature of it comes down to, okay, how do you go about achieving that? Is this going to be a demand push or a supply pull or vice versa kind of situation here? Because I mean, if you want to implement it without doing serious harm to average livelihoods, I feel is kind of an important point to at least be considered within it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Well, as I say, it all has to be paid for. Nothing's free, and regulations and supervision cost money. But the thing is that, and I told you about the story about how the community came together to keep ASARCO from getting its permit, but they still got it. And that's because those people on the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality, which is an oxymoron, business people from business backgrounds, they wanted it, and whoever butters their bread wanted it, and the community be damned. No matter what the whole of the community wanted, ASARCO is going to get their permit because capitalism reigns supreme in most political circles.
I mean, sure, the monetary focus that comes along with it. I mean, the campaign finance issues you're referencing there that come along, and a lot of them more recently come out of the whole Citizens United situation. I mean, there's often a phrase that has been applied to, let's just talk about national leadership here for a minute when it comes to, frankly, either party, but focusing specifically on the liberal wing here, as that's what you're mentioning here, of corporate Democrats, as a lot of them being sure they may have some ideals, and we'll see particularly, the more progressive wing often in conflict with them over this, but the idea of there being more corporate values instilled with a lot of the policies we go in, how do you feel about that then within current national leadership?
Oh, well, there's way too many corporate Democrats. That's why I never voted for the Clintons, for your listeners who wanted to know. I knew they were corporate pretty soon on. Clinton had formed that leadership council or something, and brought their neo-liberalism to fore. And so you got your Kristen Sinemas and your Joe Manchins, and again, way too many corporate money just has way too much power on both sides of that aisle, on the left, on the right, for the Democrats and the Republicans. It cheats the average Joe Blow of having a government that really represents them and is actually performing. And that's why people are so unhappy with Congress, so unhappy that some of them stormed it. Trying to take out Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi and the liberals there. That's how unhappy some Americans are with Congress, and they got very low ratings. Half for a long, long time. There's nothing new about that.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the presidents, and they fail Americans in achieving the mission number one of creating a more perfect union. The country couldn't be any more divided than it is now. And if the Republicans take the House and then go on to impeach Biden and or make Trump Speaker of the House, it'll just be more madness and no progress, and it won't bring the country together.
I mean, okay, I'm going to disagree with you on that last point about being more divided than ever, because we've had literal civil wars. Hell, even back in the Revolutionary War, there were the Loyalists, and then there were the Patriots. So, I mean, sure, it may seem that way, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of furthering the division here, but I got to disagree with you when it comes to the idea of never more divided here, but we'll get into that further here. I do thank you for the point in the call. We got to take that next break here right now. If you wanted to call in, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Get into some of these finer points and such, but more conversation, more comments, a lot of it here. Back with more Talk El Paso after this break. News Radio 690, KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the I-10 westbound at Copia Street off-ramp, watch for an accident blocking the left lane with a backup to Reynolds. Gateway Boulevard northbound at Altura Avenue. Accident reported there. Take Montana or Radford Street as alternates. I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Thorne. It's slow and go traffic, 5-minute delays. And an injury accident at Macomb Street northbound at Dyer. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Your happiest spring starts at Lowe's. Save $30 on the Craftsman 20-volt trimmer blower combo kit. Was $129, now $99. Lowe's, home to any possibility. While supplies last, valid 3/17 through 3/23.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Caitlin, age 20.
I got COVID in November 2020. In January, I started having long-term problems. I was a varsity soccer player in high school, and now I get winded just from walking. I can't remember things. It's just unbearable.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Liberty, 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 liberty.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Titans go!
When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come! Road trip! And you know it's super.
To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly. I know you're feeling. We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude. For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
It's an brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we got that phone line open right now. The number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in here as well. Calvin Williams, Jack Whaley, Louis Pinato, RJ, what else we got there? Michael Pattis, John Brazelton, and more. Also chiming in and dropping those likes there. Michael Robert Tipton, my guy, and Calvin Williams as well. Again, a lot of ways to get involved with here. Andrew Zignorant, Steve Ivey a little bit earlier. And a lot of things we're discussing here. There's some talking points that came up. Again, I want to be careful what you wish for if you want a specific call to happen here. But, I mean, a lot of stuff to get into here. Again, one thing I just kind of want to point out, also, Juan dropping a like over there, do appreciate it, is that when it comes to clean air, because that one just stuck with me here, clean air and the Clean Air Act and really the formation of the EPA did happen under a Republican president. Just not that I find that as therefore it's that the issue belongs to them, but just, I mean, the whole concept of we like these things and everyone else is against them, therefore we have the only position on it, I find unreasonable in the extreme here, and a lot of other talking points. Louis Pinato responding back, the only thing wrong with liberalism is eventually run out of other people's money, and some other talking points here. And Kevin Williams saying that so Republicans want dirty air and food. I find that to be not accurate as well. I mean, when it comes down to permissibility, the way you do the laws with it, I mean, we've had some conversations on this air about, the potential for carbon offsets. We had a guest that had some interesting responses when we were out of town, but still bringing you those news shows end of last year, but also just more currents towards that, the idea of making it bringing into the free market system. A whole lot of proposals that come up when it comes down to, these kind of issues, environmentalism, clean air, no one that can afford to basically import their own air, which just reminds me that China and certain rich people in China have literally begun doing that, comes to mind here. But I'll tell you what, let's get to more of the calls in the line here right now, because, again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Harry on the east side here with us right now. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, El Paso. I want to compliment seriously Raul on his offering today. He's almost got me convinced to become a liberal. I mean, his points were clear, and I didn't agree with everything. But I wanted to make a comment. He mentioned Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. I just want to let the good folks know that in 1937, the year I was born, Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed and authorized Social Security, and I've been drawing it for 27 years. So I want to thank Raul on his comments and the fact that FDR was a liberal, he was a Democrat, but he provided one of the greatest benefits in the history of the world.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of interesting legacy that when you look at it at FDR, I mean, as with any leader, I mean, there's establishment of Social Security, the whole New Deal, I mean, that still has ripples that can be felt today, both in the, the buildings and things that we see around us, the natural features, the, hydroelectric and the regions that have that. But there are also more than a couple of things of concern out there. I mean, you get back to that overall record there, the whole, Internment Act and the Alien Expulsion Act that came along with it. Plus, this one doesn't get talked about enough, and I almost thought it was fake the first time I heard it, but in the lead up to, and it is immediately his first part of office, was actually making it illegal to remove any gold from safe deposit boxes or even sell it on the open market, because he didn't want people flooding out of there and taking all of their cash with them here. So, I mean, mixed bag as with most leaders, but obviously still a lot of impact from that administration and set of administrations, again, the 4 terms that led to its own constitutional amendment coming out of it that we still feel today.
Yeah, I agree. I had mentioned previously, everything's about money, and you just can't get away from it. And all the money that we have spent, Andrew, through the years, in the fact we just sent billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and all the other money that you hear that is foolishly spent, we could be building apartment buildings in places for homeless people to live. You know, the homeless people, a lot of them got there for whatever reason, but you could never count yourself out and needing a cardboard box. And I just wish we would do more for our own folks as far as money.
That is often the conversation that comes up here, more often than not a little bit partisan, but the idea of reevaluating how we spend the public money that is gathered and ultimately is going to be spent, because sure, as much as we might have interesting conversations about the idea of, okay, reducing the national debt, getting rid of so much public spending, reducing taxes, which certainly would have its own set of benefits. I mean, you look at across administrations, across the political spectrum lately, there's been a bit of it, but for the most part, the spending continues apace across administration, so it is always going to be happening.
I agree with you, but I just say save your food stamps and buy a lot of Rumyan. So that's my comment today.
No, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for the point in the call there. You have a good one. I appreciate it. That something you pointed out here. You may have heard that news update at the top of the hour there about more wild weather going on here in Texas. Ed Clore pointing out a tornado and on the ground in Austin right now. Yeah, I believe as of last count, 58 counties in Texas under some kind of tornado watch or warning right now. So yeah, not in our neck of the woods. It doesn't seem like right now. But if you got family out there, check in on them. They may need some help here coming up. At least one that was I believe, in the Dallas area that was talked about during the news break there. So looking like a wild weather day, week, month here for Texas as we're entering spring here. So just stay on your toes and check on your people if you can here. We got time for one more quick call before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. We have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Yes. First of all, I need to respond to Comrade Raul from the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What he's seeking is never going to happen. His socialistic society, I mean, that would destroy capitalism. Number two, if he wants such a system or close to it, but it's not even close to perfection, there's Cuba, but then again, people are wanting to leave Cuba. Also, I wanted to mention, you mentioned border security and Abbott's stance on the border right now. People say, is it just showboating for the election, or is it some other thing?
I mean, that is the question. Again, we haven't really delved into that here, so thanks for calling me out on it. But yeah, the article title from the Texas Tribune out today: Government Greg Abbott brags about his border initiative. The evidence doesn't back him up. Of course, there was more talk about this right before the election or in the weeks leading up to it, as some of his opponents, Alan West primarily, but also statements coming out of like Don Huffines and some of the other candidates about, okay, is the border response actually working? A lot of focus on the deployment of the Texas military department, the National Guard, etc. Along with that, and was it actually necessary? Some interim reporting also about some specific positioning of some of these troops near certain particular landowners who may have also ended up being donors to the campaign, and that's its whole separate kettle of fish here. But in general, the idea of, okay, has this expenditure been worthwhile? Has the cost, both monetarily, both personnel-wise, been worth it here? And this has echoes of a situation that's been going on for a while now, because Operation Lone Star, the ramp up it has, I don't remember if it was totally called that, say, 5-10 years ago, but Texas has had its own programs along this line. Didn't usually involve the National Guard, has previously involved Texas state troopers, and it was kind of a blank check situation. At least some of our local legislators at the state level were concerned about that, saying, okay, we're putting up hundreds of millions of dollars on this, and the accountability didn't seem to be there at the time. And I think a lot of those questions are now lingering with this. Again, even if it wasn't totally called the same thing, Operation Lone Star, I can't remember offhand, but the idea of it now implemented, is it having the net effect that it is being claimed to have, are the questions being raised.
Well, okay. One of the things in law enforcement, you have what's known as use of force, and one of the first stage in use of force is officer presence. Now, you cannot. There is no metric to measure deterrence. Okay, how many of these individuals, how many drug smugglers and operations have been averted by these people being on the border? I'm talking the military and DPS.
Okay. I think I see what you're getting at there.
Yes. In other words, officer presence. Okay. In other words, being proactive. And I can say I can tell Harry this. Okay. Liberal policies. No, they're Harry and I can tell Harry and what's his name, Frankie from Messia, that liberal policies in Texas are about as popular as the Edsel was.
and that's one thing I wanted to mention here, actually, popularity. I was surprised, and I checked in over on the Gallup ratings on the popularity of Congress. It's actually at about 20% right now. Now, the disapproval level is about 75% here, but it's technically up from the low we saw at the very beginning of the year at about 18%. So, and it's not the lowest it's ever been, 15% back in 2020. What I find here, I mean, there's been a handful of times since this kind of measuring has happened that Congress has broken the 50% mark. The highest one actually being after 2001, the 9/11 attacks, there being about 84%, but that was the well beyond high water mark than usual, because usually around pretty low. And yeah, the historic unpopularity of Congress, literally at some points in our nation's history, the Congress has been less popular than the idea of a communist takeover of the United States in terms of opinion polls here. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Well, and like I say, what I say to your viewers, who criticize Operation Lone Star, how can you measure the deterrence? Okay, when I'm sure drug smugglers and human traffickers are not going to report to the FBI or DPS. Well, we tried. We were gonna go cross over here at this point in Laredo, but we saw the police and the National Guard, and we decided not to.
Interesting concept there. Again, it's something that is inherently hard to measure. Then does make setting public policy on it tricky at best, and I am sure that's a little bit of what Abbott is going to be talking about. This kind of ramped up reporting and questioning of it. Even some of the members of our own audience here saying, okay, has this been worthwhile? Has been coming up here, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we see another one of the border unit kind of news conferences out of Abbott before too long here to get a little bit further into this, because, okay, we're in a different situation now that we're in the general election, him situated, as opposed to the primaries, him handily winning those, avoiding any runoffs, and those were where a lot of those questions were coming from. And I don't think a lot of people that are likely to vote Abbott are on this issue going to say, no, I don't like how he's done, therefore I'm going to vote for O'Rourke. But, I mean, it's still does the more likely thing than not, in my analysis, would be that they are just going to not vote, or more importantly, probably for his campaign at this point, donate. So I expect him to talk a little bit further about this in probably the coming days and weeks.
Roger that. Well, we'll see you tomorrow then. Take care.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. All right, that's going to take us through that next break here. Already flying through this show here. Calvin Williams on Congress saying, the less Congress does, the better their ratings. I mean, there's a phrase out there, the government that governs least governs best here, but that kind of a concept has been fleeting in public implementation since, I feel like my lifetime is the best way to put it here, but probably longer. Anyway, we got to take that break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll get to a few more calls here if you wanted to do so, and, of course, more comments. Again, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Giving credit where credit's due with local law enforcement and opioids coming out of this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Olguin, and this is your KFOX 14 News Update. The pit bull that attacked an 84-year-old woman in Las Cruces has been turned over to animal control. The dog is undergoing a 10-day quarantine. Las Cruces police say that a preliminary investigation indicates that only one dog was involved in the attack of March 17th. According to the victim's family, Penny Dunkley suffered severe bites to both arms, and her right forearm had to be amputated. An argument over how much of a man's food stamp card was used led to a stabbing stabbing in northeast El Paso. That's according to El Paso police, who responded to a call on Saturday night. They found an 18-year-old with a stab wound. Police learned that the 18-year-old had been stabbed by an unidentified person after using that person's food stamp card. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Heads up for an injury accident. I-10 westbound at Reynolds is causing a backup. I-10 westbound at Copia, that crash from earlier is still causing a backup. Montwood Drive eastbound at Saw Kleinfeld, an injury accident there. You can use Bob Mitchell or George Dieter to get around it. Sunland Park Drive, reports of a crash there westbound just before you get to Mesa Hills. And East Paisano Drive eastbound at Valverde, another accident reported. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Our first full day of spring certainly doesn't feel like it. We're looking at much cooler temperatures. In fact, a good part of this week is going to remain well below average. We'll see some more winds, even though the wind advisory will have expired. We are expecting to find some breezy to windy conditions over the next couple days, and rain chances gradually decreasing before we dry out by midweek.
This report is sponsored by the maker of Frontline Shield. Frontline Shield for dogs is from the #1 name in flea and tick protection. So no matter what type of dog you have or what adventure you go on, Frontline Shield lets you take them everywhere, no matter how you define it. Visit frontline.com to learn more.
Near historically low mortgage rates may not last forever. If you're in the market for a new home or your dream home, go with a lender you can count on. For competitive rates, over 300 loan products and thousands of loan consultants to help make sure you get the home and the mortgage that you want. Call now to see if you're pre-approved. 866-888-LOAN, 866-888-LOAN, or go to loandepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. And MLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here, and we know life is better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
Hey guys, it's Edge Martinez. My family's gather in the kitchen. It's our favorite place to catch up. Keep germs out. I use Lysol on countertops, tables, and the fridge handle. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
The #1 pick is in. Wendy's Breakfast, the official breakfast of March Madness. Choose your starting lineup, like the Breakfast Baconator or Honey Butter Chicken Biscuit, and enjoy oven-baked bacon, fresh cracked eggs, seasoned breakfast potatoes, and Simply OJ. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Breakfast.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here. A lot of things we're talking about, but I mentioned that I was going to give credit where it's due, and we certainly will do that. I'll talk about the whole Narcan issues here, but getting into this here in just a second here. Edgar Ortiz chiming in, RJ, Calvin Williams, Ed Clore, and more. John Brazelton, Jack Whaley, whichever way, Billy, let me know. Lou Pinato and more. John Brazelton, if I didn't say that already, tuning in, chiming in over there. And we also take those calls, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. So we were having those conversations about Narcan situation in town here based on some recent local reporting about what's actually available, particularly for El Paso Police Department, but a release actually out today from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, so slightly different organization, but definitely affecting us regionally here. That they responded to a residence and found a man and woman unconscious on the floor, tried to do CPR, but no response, but administered Narcan, and both of them became conscious and then were transported to the hospital and were being assessed. So I mean, it's certainly a powerful response tool, and what I would love to see further investment and availability of in our area. But we got a lot more there. Edgar Ortiz chiming in. Hello, the Skeptic Squad, fresh back from the Houston Stock and Rodeo Show. Figure out would have fixed things while I was gone, but I guess we'll keep wiring on it. I mean, if we were able to fix things, again, I've talked a lot about my cloudy crystal ball and the magic wand that I don't have to be able to wave and fix things. So if ever you got any of those cheap, let me know. Certainly be interested in getting them for you, and we'll start fixing the things that we can here. Honestly, let's just be, brass tacks here. If we were able to just fix everything, new problems would prop up. I have no doubt. So again, hope you had a good trip here. But Michael Pett is asking if we've seen a fox climb a tree. Not sure about that one, but RJ also in response to my question as we went into that last break, asking about, how's that concept, the government that governs less governs best. If that has not been in place in my life, if not longer, him saying it's longer than my lifetime, and dirt is a distant cousin, like that phrasing here. So, but again, credit where it's due to our local law enforcement and how they were dealing with that particular situation. But another one that came out, again, more wild situations happening out there, that a person broke into a home, stole a car, and then the family that had the car stolen tracked the guy or person. I don't think it actually says anything about just suspect is the term being used here. Burglary of habitation and theft of property. They got booked in after the family tracked them down and found it. Now, I am not going to absolutely recommend that because it is, not a good idea for the most part. I mean, there's good training that comes into being able to deal with criminals and such, but hey, if you're gonna do it, I guess kudos to them, but man, that could have gone real wrong then. But again, wild situations happening out here. Ortiz following up, George Strait is still the king of country, so I mean, some things change, but things will stay the same in other ways here. Let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Marky Mandingo, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing all right, Marky. What's on your mind?
Well, I got two questions. I think they're going to be answered rhetorically, but who pays the bill when these drug addicts take a chance of their life and they shoot up and they, I guess, use too much or whatever they do?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to survive. We have to revive them. The ambulance, the hospital bill, I'm sure UMC is not cheap on the weekend for someone who's just overdosed. And second of all, does the government have to eat that with Medicaid dollars? Because we have to eat that with taxpayer dollars. I just want to know, because I'm getting sick of hearing this constantly. I read all the information about the El Paso police, do not have enough Narcan to help everybody. Do they expect that we're just going to keep everybody alive and bring them back to life? I mean, they're doing something it's inherently terrible for them. I mean, it's not a good thing. And do we have to keep paying the bill? Do these people ever actually get a bill? Do they have to pay this bill, or do we have to constantly send them to the general hospital, eat those tax dollars, and bring them back to life so they can do it again and again and again? It's ridiculous, I think.
So I can't comment too much on the El Paso County's programs that come along with it, but I do know that when it comes to El Paso Police Department, part of that reporting that was coming out is that, if there is Narcan administered, they will not receive a bill for that, nor will there be charges put into place, but it's not just okay, you've gotten your treatment, have fun, don't do it again, but we're not going to stop you if you do kind of thing. There are the kind of social services that come along with it of okay, why were we in this situation in the first place? What's going on? Is there treatment needed? Is this part of the opioid epidemic we're seeing here, or the opioid crisis, or, the whole overprescription thing, and these people just have not been able to figure it out in their own lives? So harm reduction is kind of the idea here, because as much as we're focused on, the idea of fentanyl coming across the border and people being affected by that, and the high number of deaths across the country we're seeing with that, this is part of the response here, because sure, choking it off is an excellent idea, but then if you're then going to essentially, in my mind, abandon the people who are then suffering from it, that has to be a part of the response here if you're really wanting to address it. So certainly get your point about the cost associated with it. And I think that if it was just spray it up the nose, bye, have fun, don't do it again, that would be concerning, because then to all the questions you asked, what's to stop them from doing it again? So it's not exactly a mandatory, and now you have to do this program or you go to jail. But I mean, the idea is to then, figure out how these people got in this situation and stop it as much as possible. But it is not an absolute, to my understanding. And again, from the El Paso Police Department side of things, this specific administration that happened over the weekend was from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
Well, if you remember 3 weeks back, you had those 5 different women that all got caught with condoms stuffed in places they shouldn't have stuffed those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know, there's got to be a consequence. They should have like a 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. After the third time we're reviving you, we're not going to do it again. Kind of the same thing where people were screaming they hate the police, F the police, all this. Well, then put them on a 911 call list and say, all right, well, we're not going to come to your house and save you if you keep on saying that you hate the police. Something like that. I mean, we got to, try to make an example out of some people and say, look, we're not going to keep bringing you back to life. There's not many of the things that can bring someone back to life, whether it be faith or medical technology, but somehow Narcan does it. And I think must be a lot more expensive than the heroin or fentanyl or whatever they use. And yeah, we need to lock the border down a lot more, but that seems to be something that our current administration and our current congresswomen and them don't want. They're just like, we got to save everybody. No, we can't save everybody. We have to save ourselves first.
I certainly agree that I think the focus should be more on domestically. I mean, and I feel like the last time we had the whole omnibus bill conversation come up, there were some serious questions about all the stuff being sent overseas, and that's absolutely a feature of this one as well. So the idea of putting more into our people is important, but I got to say, I find my consideration of it to be a part of that, because I mean, if it's going to be drugs are bad and we need to stop the people, and the people that are dying from it is horrible, but then we're not willing to follow through on the implementation of, okay, we have literally the technology to then save the people and hopefully stop them doing it, but, well, we don't think they deserve it, actually. I find that personally just more than a little bit hypocritical. I got to be honest.
I think it's treatment over incarceration, but at some point you might need to get incarcerated for a while. I don't understand how these people can be arrested on some type of law. I mean, they're just being brought back from using a very deadly and highly illegal drug.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I think it's ridiculous, but I do believe in treatment over incarceration. But at some point, you can only treat. And then after that, there has to be some kind of consequence. And these people are so out of it, they forego conservatorship of their own children. I don't know if they have a job. I don't know where they get the money to afford these things. I mean, have they seen the price of meat? Jesus.
Yeah, we brought that up as well. Okay, here's the way I look at it is because, sure, there are plenty of people that probably are doing things they shouldn't when it comes to the use of illegal drugs, but given some of the prevalence and even the counterfeiting of things that are happening when it comes to these drugs and the way that, because cartels, they just want to make money. If there's any way they can do it, they're gonna, including counterfeiting drugs. I mean, there's an actually article we got right now over on our website, KTSMradio.com. Headline here is that 7 hospitalized after fentanyl released via air vents at the juvenile facility. And I mean, there are some
very scary stuff, man. It's just we're in another new generation of stupidity and me. I mean, I just don't know. I just wanted to add that. You got a great show today. I like the topic, so I'll hang up and let you continue, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, thank you for the point in the call here. I mean, discussing these things are important. I will fully agree here. But, okay, if I found myself, I have never partaken of opioids. I don't think I've even prescribed them. If I have, I don't think I took them for the most part because I took the giant ibuprofen, the 800 milligrams. That's about the closest I've gotten outside of, like, surgical procedures. But because, I mean, the concern over them. But there's a lot of people who I think who have ended up in these situations through probably some fault of their own, but more that have ended up in situations outside of fault of their own. And I got to say, I would much rather that there be able to do the response if I find myself in that situation of being exposed to something I didn't fully understand or what was going on with it and be able to respond to it. And that's why I find myself frowning at the best on the idea of, oh, well, they only get it if they really deserve it. Because in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the response, I want to know they're able to do what is necessary with the first responder, because if you start wondering about, well, do they deserve it, start putting value judgments in the middle of it, that just is a whole messy mess. Just the only way to put it here. Tell you what, we got to take that last break here. Coming out of the break, we'll have a short segment, get to some of those pound 250 calls and such, and close out the show. Tell you what we got coming up here for future shows, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got injury accident slowing traffic on the I-10 this afternoon. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, an injury accident there. I-10 westbound at Copia Street, and still slowing traffic back to Reynolds. And I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Thorne, it's slow with 10-minute delays. Montwood eastbound at Kleinfeld, watch for an injury accident there. And Sunland Park Drive westbound before Mesa Hills, a crash there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes make a big difference for the environment. Did you know that keeping your tires even a single PSI lower than recommended means worse mileage and more trips to the pump? So do the environment and your wallet a favor and always check the tire pressure. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips on smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Rob, age 22.
I got COVID in September of 2020. And a few weeks later, I started to have long-term problems. I used to run 5 to 6 miles a day. Now, when I walk up a flight of stairs, I'm gasping for air. It feels like my brain is clouded and I can't think straight.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. That's about going to do it here for today. Short timing it here in this last little segment. We've gotten to a lot of issues here today, and a lot more coming up. Among other things, we've got the whole nearshoring phenomena, or at the very least, the currents you might be able to better see coming up with, well, all of the global situations, maybe the, if not total death of just-in-time supplies, certainly a lot of people wondering if it's actually worthwhile to invest in it. So that's the kind of stuff we'll get in, and the impact it's having regionally. Texas-based company, or a company that works in Texas anyway, focused on that whole nearshoring phenomenon, plus what it means for us here in the borderland. We've talked a lot about companies moving in, making decisions, and what that's going to mean going forward. So getting that kind of analysis here amongst other topics we're working on for y'all. So stay tuned for that here. A couple other things I want to mention before we hit out of this break here. Of course, there is some things going on for the budget locally. El Paso County Commissioners are working on the budget proposals as of this week. So including the revenues and expenditures according for the last couple of years from our news partners over at KFOX 14. So with that coming up, probably going to be affecting, well, how much we're paying out of our pocketbooks going forward here. And also those sessions that happened with El Paso County, those listening sessions for the expenditure of the American Rescue Plan Act. Yes, that is the right way to say it. $9.7 million to be invested in local nonprofit organizations and such. So those sessions ongoing still. Again, March 24th at the El Paso County Coliseum and March 30th at the San Elizario High School, Canutillo, San Elizario High School and Canutillo High School. So they're going to be talking about the expenditure of those county level funds here, and the $163 million in total funding, and that more investment will be going on with. So if you're wanting to be involved with that, again, a couple more, March 24th and March 30th. Again, if you want more information on those, how to get involved here, you can go and find us over on the KFox TV.com website with our news partners there. And of course, we'll keep talking even further about this and some of the other issues we got coming up, because there's more we can get to in a day. Again, I'll hope that everyone else in Texas that we may know or have acquaintances with are doing well. We got tornadoes, we got fires, we got a lot to work through here. So we'll keep talking about it as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Knock on wood, it won't affect us directly here, but the state level response and any connections we have over there, hopefully everyone y'all know is staying safe here. So that is going to do it here for us for today. I do appreciate everyone that has tuned in, called in, commented, participated in the show. Y'all are really what helped make this show what it is, because otherwise, I mean, I've been asked, why not do a podcast, get really in depth on something, and we might do that at some point, but really just being able to have the input, the conversation, and what y'all want to say and have to do with this is one of the more important aspects for me. So we'll keep doing that 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got injury accident slowing traffic on the I-10 this afternoon. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, an injury accident there. I-10 westbound at Copia Street, and still slowing traffic back to Reynolds. And I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Thorne, it's slow with 10-minute delays. Montwood eastbound at Saul Kleinfeld, watch for an injury accident there. And Sunland Park Drive westbound before Mesa Hills, a crash there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles, with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months, 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if you're